Hello there and welcome to the Marseille View. My name's Stefan Robert and tonight we'll be joined by Ed Spencer. Hello Ed.
Alright, Steph.
Hi. Ben Sinuyi. Hi Ben.
Hi again, you'll get there eventually. Hi everyone.
Thank you. And we're also joined by Fiorenzo Pazzo, who makes his first appearance. Hi Fiorenzo.
Hi, how are you?
So I thought maybe Fiorenzo, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became a Marseille fan.
Yeah, well, I'm 31 years old. I'm living in the south of France, and I became a Marseille fan because everybody in the south of France is fan of OM. So I just became just like that. I went to stadium a lot of time, and that's why I'm a huge Marseille fan. That's all.
Brilliant. It's like a rite of passage. Right, so what we'll do tonight is much like last week's podcast. So we'll start off by a review of Sunday night's game against Nice, and then we'll also look forward to next weekend's match against Paris Saint-Germain. Last week we touched a little bit upon the youth team and what was happening with the youth system or lack of system. So we thought this week we'll talk in a bit more detail about the Centre de Formation and have a chat about like how they're performing, what kind of players are coming up, and what kind of efforts the club have been doing to improve the system. Then we'll also run through some of the relevant news stories in the last week. And finally, we'll finish off by going through a Q&A from some of our listeners. So some of the listeners have emailed and tweeted us some questions that we'll put to the panel. So I think without further ado, we'll get started tonight. So for those of you who didn't see Sunday night's game, Marseille won 1-0 against OGC Nice at the Stade Velodrome, courtesy of a goal from Mario Balotelli. Guys, what did you think about Sunday night's game? And I guess it kind of feels, well, to me it sort of feels like it was pre-written, the result and the score.
I thought it was a bit of a shocking game, really. It was a bit of a fluky goal, I thought, with Balotelli, but a win's a win.
What about your thoughts on that, Fiorenzo? How did you find the game?
Well, I think that was really boring, just like usual, Every game is just boring with Rudy Garcia, but, well, we won, and how we said, a win, it's a win. But, yeah, I liked the game of Morgan Sanson. He played a good game, I think. But I really, really dislike the game of Valère Germain, just like every game. He just, I don't know what he's doing the team. He doesn't score. He doesn't play for the team. I don't know. I just like Mario Balotelli, but yeah, the game was really, really boring.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit harsh on Germain because we've changed tactic, we've changed system. I think he's trying to find his marks with Balotelli and adapt to playing with Balotelli. What annoyed me and frustrated quite a lot of us in the bar, sorry again to the manager for being quite noisy yesterday, I think it's quite frustrating to see him sometimes go very deep, very low to get the ball or to touch the ball, and it sort of leaves Balotelli by himself up front, and it's to add to the comments from Ed and Fiorenzo, I think it's frustration on his part due to the lack of supply. There's no creativity in this team.
Yeah, but I think that's a part of Rudy Garcia. I think he's not doing well at the training. I don't know, because we have good players, and we don't play with Strootman, we don't play with Gustavo, we don't play with Payet, and they are really good players. So I don't know why he doesn't play with them. And for Sanson, I see what you mean, but the problem is from Rudy Garcia. That's all the problem, I think.
I agree. I think he's finding his marks. He's always been quite a conservative coach. I mean, he spent months insisting with Rami and with Gustavo in defence, and it didn't work, but he kept going. Now that the team is winning, I think we're all happy to say that we're impressed with Chele Takar and Camara, who seem to have a real partnership at the back. I think I saw the stat yesterday. They've gone 4 home games in a row without conceding a goal now. But at the same time, he's got to switch it around up front. And whilst you have someone like Ocampos who's finding form. I mean, he's got 2 goals and 3 assists in his last 6 or 7 games. You've got other players that just simply seem to be carried by the team, and Thauvin is an example.
Yeah. Well, I think Thauvin he played a really bad game yesterday, but I think Rudy Garcia is playing with this system because it works. We win the games, But for Chaletatsar and Camara, I think we're gonna see against PSG because we can say on these games Nice is really poor offensively,
I thought I didn't get Rudy's substitutes. I thought they were quite pointless. Gustavo just didn't do much, and Payet would just look sloppy. He just looked like he didn't care.
One thing about Payet, I didn't. Although he wasn't on for very long to make any impact, but I did think he looked a lot slimmer than the last time I saw him play. Looked like he'd lost a little bit of weight, I thought.
Yeah, he's burned off the Christmas calories. Yeah,
must be on the Atkins diet.
One of the actually things I wanted to ask you about today, about that game. Sorry, one of the things I wanted to ask about was Chaletatsar's performance. I thought he had quite a commanding game. What did you think of him last night?
I thought he played well. I thought at the start when he arrived, I thought he was very sloppy. I think I called him Kung Fu Chaleta because of that awful tackle at Lyon. But he's really impressing, and I'm really impressed. Mm-hmm. He's coming into his own, and if he can put in a good performance against PSG, he's one to keep for the future.
Absolutely.
I think so. I think so. You are right, but I'm just waiting to see against a really good team, because we played against a really bad team for now. But yeah, I was impressed by Chaletatsar yesterday, and he made. I don't know if you saw that he made the step to put Saint-Maximin offside.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, that was a good play for him. I think he's improving every game.
Yeah, I think that the partnership is blossoming, and again, beyond his defensive performance in the first half, I think he sprayed a couple of decent balls. When Thauvin had the shot that was tipped over by Benitez, he's the person who actually makes that long crossfield pass to Thauvin from almost the left back position. So he's growing in confidence. Again, we touched on this last week. Rudy sort of threw him in at the deep end by playing him just after holidays and in difficult games away from home and at home behind closed doors. It's time. I think he's been given his chance. He's stepped up. Him and Camara seem a bit fearless, but Florenzo's right. We'll see this weekend against proper opposition.
Mm. Yeah, it does feel like it could be a bit of a make or break game for that defensive partnership. Be interesting to see if they do have a horror, how much it impacts their confidence, given that they're so young.
Yeah, I think so too. Plus, they're going up against, admittedly, one of the best teams in Europe. Although last week's results will tell you otherwise. But we'll see. They've got to contain Mbappe. They've got to contain Cavani and co. Mm. This will be a test next week.
Yeah. I think some of you might remember a few years ago we had a young defensive partnership with Zuba and Renato Civilli. And yeah, but if you remember, they turned out to be quite a horrific partnership. But if you remember correctly, I think it was the first 8 or 9 games of the season. They started the season. They had the best defensive record in the league, and people were talking about them as being really promising. And then it fell apart, and it became apparent that Zuba was a really, really poor defender, and Civilli wasn't great either. So I've got a bit of fear that could happen to those two, that we might, they might get found out, and having a bad game against, say, PSG, where they concede a number of goals, could be a catalyst to.
Yeah, yes and no, and you're talking about very different players. I mean, Camara is, Zuba sort of arrived on the scene. He was a signing from a lower tier team in Ligue 1. Camara's, he's been around. I think he's got enough experience under his belt to not let himself, get sort of put down by a poor result. And I think from this season, all of our team is experienced to a poor run of results, and they're not the same players. They're talented. I think Chaletatsar has proved that he's got European experience as well. yes, we look. I'm unfortunately a believer that we will probably take a hiding on Sunday. I hope not, but I'm just very worried, and maybe we can touch on this next, about the contents of our game and the fact that we really, really struggle to string together free passes in offensive phases, and we don't seem to produce much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. But don't you think that Rudi Garcia will use Gustavo in defense against PSG? Because I think he can.
That's a Rudi special, isn't it? It probably is a Rudi special. You're right, maybe.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I think Rudi's got a bit of a death wish putting Gustavo at centre back. He's kind of by doing that. I think he's kind of pieing for his own sacking, because it will be 8-1, 9-1 if Gustavo's at centre back.
Well, especially if he's not played. I mean, I was very surprised that he didn't blood. It's a weird thing to say when we're talking about such experienced players as Gustavo, Payet and Strootman, but I expected one of Gustavo or Strootman to start in midfield last night, or at least come on and have a good half an hour to get back into the rhythm of things. It didn't happen. It's quite surprising, because Payet and Sanson and Lopez is fine at the Vélodrome against Nice and Saint-Etienne, who admittedly came to defend and played very deep and left us quite a bit of the possession. But when we're in counter-attacking situations against PSG, where we need to hold the ball in midfield and wait for players like Ocampos and Thauvin to sort of dart forward after coming back to defend, I don't fancy either of those two in midfield to keep their head and keep their composure when they're being pressed by the likes of Verratti and others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the problem against PSG is maybe with Lopez and Sanson we can keep the ball, but first we have to get the ball. And I'm not really sure that Lopez and Sanson can get the ball against PSG, because
they're not ball winners. You're right.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, you need ball winners. Like, maybe I'm gonna say it, but Strootman and Gustavo are ball winners, I guess. So maybe that's why they're gonna play against PSG.
Absolutely. Guys, I think we're skipping over to PSG-UM, but just before we do, I just want to ask a couple more things about last night's game. Obvious one to talk about is Mario Balotelli, his return to Nice on the Mediterranean derby, scores a winning goal. How do you think he did last night?
Yeah, well, you can see he's a real attacker, a real one. When you compare with Germain, Balotelli is a talented player, and you can see he just has one shot and he just scores. And
it's pure confidence, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Well, brace yourselves. Here's a controversial opinion. I was quite frustrated with him last night. If you take his goal away, and you see it again. We'll talk about Germain again having to go deep and run. Germain is a busybody. He will run around. He will make challenges if he needs to. He will go deep and try and be the one that can launch attacks if he gets the ball back, or Sanson or Lopez get it back and look for him. Balotelli, he does walk around. It has to be said that yes, he can get away with it.
That's his style of play. That's how he plays.
It is, but he can get away with it.
It's like Ibrahimovic, if you remember well. Sometimes he made just shitty games and he scores every time. So, well, if he scores against PSG, I'm okay with that. He can do a bad game.
Me too. But it will. I can see it being an issue if there are situations where he loses the ball and he just sits there, sort of hitting the ground, or he starts having a rant at the referee instead of going back and defending as a unit. And effectively against a team like PSG, where we're going to be on the break and we won't have a lot of possession, we will need every man behind the ball, and Balotelli won't. I don't think he will do that.
Well, for me, that's why Balotelli must be free on the pitch. You have to be You have to be forward and to be free on the pitch, and every team is gonna work for him to give him a good ball so he can score. I think that's what they should make.
It's true, but Germain is probably the only one working for him, because Thauvin quite clearly is struggling to adapt to this new system. Ocampos is Ocampos. He runs around a lot. He's got a lot of energy, but again, apart from his cross for the goal last night, there's just no end product. So it is worrying for me that, yes, the team has got to play for him, but he does not get a lot of balls. He doesn't get a lot of supply.
Yeah, you're right.
Ed, have you got any thoughts on that?
Well, I'm in full agreement with the chaps here, but it's just a thought. If Balotelli is going to be a bit lazy and sluggish around, because I think he's a bit of a poacher in terms of his goal-scoring style, is it perhaps that maybe we should put Strootman in the mid and use him like a fifth defender or defensive midfielder in order to give the strikers and the attackers more time and more room?
Yeah, well, that's what I think too. I think Strootman should play in the midfield with Lopez, so Lopez can take the ball and, he doesn't have to defend. And give the ball to Balotelli. Okay,
so one last thought about last night's game was Nice's star player Alain Saint-Maximin, I think has been linked with Marseille recently. I think Garcia was asked about him a couple of days ago about his thoughts on whether or not they would be interested in him. How did you think he did? Was he a player that interests you at all?
I don't think he really had much chance to show his talent because I think Nice were just so defensive-minded. But I'd take him in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think, as Ed said, it's difficult to judge him on a game like that where the poor lad was isolated up front. He tried to hold the ball up a couple of times and then there's nobody getting forward to support him. Yes, he's worth a gamble, I think. We don't know what's going to happen this summer. It's a lot of it's going to hinge on when we finish fourth or third. But Thauvin is a likely departure if Bayern Munich, as it's rumoured, or Milan come in and make a 50 million offer for him. Saint-Maximin is a gamble. Having said that, he's a journeyman in Ligue 1. He's been to big clubs. He's been Saint-Etienne, he's been Monaco, and now he's at Nice. He's got decent stats. Would he improve? Does he have potential? Yes. Is Garcia the manager to improve him? Big question mark.
Yeah, well, for me, what I think about Saint-Maximin, I think yesterday he was left by his teammates. He couldn't do anything. But the problem with this guy, I think he has a big lack of football IQ. That's what I think. He has a lot of qualities. Technically he's really good, but I'm not sure he can go up.
Yeah, the potential is there, but as you say, with the right coach, I think he can make the best of that potential and improve. But is he ready?
Have the right coach.
Exactly. Is he ready for European football or Champions League? No, not right now.
It's interesting because you guys have answered a lot of the listeners' questions already tonight. But yeah, we'll touch upon that a bit later. I think we've probably said enough about last night's game, and we've talked a little bit about next weekend's game against Paris Saint-Germain, the big derby. What are your predictions for next weekend's game?
I think it'll be 3-0 PSG.
Yeah, I hope we get a goal. I think it's 3-1. I think we're likely to concede more than 2 goals.
Have you got any more positive prediction than that, Fiorenzo?
I don't know if I'm going to be positive, but I can say that PSG will be really, really, they need the win because of what they did on the Champions League against Manchester United. So they will try to win.
What absolutely. They didn't do.
well, they didn't do, yeah. But I'm not confident, but every time against PSG, I'm not confident because it could win against them since 8 years ago. So
exactly, I think what is interesting is possibly the context and the fallout from that match, where a lot of fans, are talking about potential boycotts or potential offensive banners, like we've seen a few at the Velodrome in the last few weeks. I think PSG are just. They've got too many star players to fall apart against us. Lucas, who was, we were together last night, and forever the optimist, he thinks we'll beat them 1-0 and nick a goal. All I want, and this is a shout out to Garcia, if ever he listens, is please do not do what you did at home. Don't set up with 10 people behind the ball and not attack. I think we had one shot on target against PSG at home, which was frankly embarrassing. I mean, they all came out after the game. Even Hérault said that he was proud of the players and they put in a performance. I was pissed off. Let's be honest. I mean, we did nothing. We produced nothing.
They just ran.
Exactly, and that's what worries me is if we're going to put them under pressure, we need to press them in the first 20 minutes, go all out. If we nick a goal or we get lucky and frustrate them a bit, and we make it a game, then maybe we can get a result. But if we just go there and sit back like victims, it's going to end badly.
Yeah, you're right. But I think it's going to depend of the PSG. The PSG we will choose if the game is win or loss, because we can do anything we want. If PSG is in a good day, we can do anything. And the problem is, I don't know, maybe the PSG fans will be really angry at the players, so they're going to play like shit. And maybe they're going to, I don't know. It's going to be up to the PSG.
Yeah, they're playing this week, aren't they? I think they're playing tomorrow or Wednesday.
They're playing tomorrow.
Dijon. I think it's Dijon. No, I think it's Dijon.
Yes, Dijon. It is Dijon at 6. Can I come into this? I think
of course.
The PSG team, they remind me of the Galacticos. They got all the best players in the business, but they can't win the big trophies.
It's not a team unit, exactly.
No, it's. I watched a documentary with Rio Ferdinand when he visited PSG, and although watching it made me want to cut my eyeballs out with spoons, it was interesting because PSG constantly talked about we must succeed in the shops, we must succeed getting like Air Jordan kits off the shelf, and it just thinks PSG are not a team; they're a marketing brand. They're never going to win the Champions League if you're like a marketing brand. That's how Real Madrid failed, and the fans will turn against them. They've turned against them on the training ground last week. If you saw the images of like Thiago Silva getting heckled, Kurosawa being heckled, Neymar, Cavani, they've all had a pretty terrible week, and I don't know how much it's going to be affected.
Well, it depends on us. The ball is in our court to go there and make a go of it. The lack of contents in our game and the lack of tactical initiative and trying to build plays and get the ball into the box. All we seem to do is give it to the wide players and cross it in and hope Balotelli gets on the end of it. If we go with a slightly different approach, we'll see. The game against PSG is one where I don't think we'll have much possession. It might suit our style to play on the counter and sort of go out and try and rely on players like Ocampos, etc., to get forward and cross the ball in. We'll see. It might suit our style. Who knows?
Yeah, you're right.
Do you think that the reason why that seems to be our game plan, which is passing it out wide in hope that the wingers can either cut in or cross one in, is partly because of the formation, though, that Garcia has been using, the 4-4-2, since he's been leaving, before we were having Dimitri Payet playing in a sort of number 10 role, and the ability for him to sort of create through the middle is gone. Do you think that's a factor in that?
Yeah, I think so. I think why change the formation now when it's been winning the past 2 games? It's simple. Just keep it as it is. Play. We've got to do what Nice tried to do to us last night. We've got to just stick everyone at the back, but keep Balotelli waiting.
So, actually, that would have been my next question, which was, do you think that we're going to play the same players, the same lineup we've been playing the last couple of weeks, or do you think Garcia is going to change it around and put out a part the bus 11?
You can tell because Rudy Garcia is unpredictable. So maybe we'll put Gustavo and Strootman on the field. I don't know. But the problem with this system, the 4-4-2, we have to play with the right back and the left back are really important. And the problem is Sakai is playing on the left back and he's a right back, and Bounassar can cross. So, yeah, we can score like that unless we get luck. But against PSG, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree really with Fiorentina there. We've just got to, like I said, just play everyone at the back, but keep Balotelli waiting. We're just going to need Strootman there. We're going to need Lopez to keep calm. We're going to need Sakai and...
here's the question, Ed. I think there will be 2 changes to the 11, and one of them is more than likely going to be MAV coming back in at left back.
Oh Jesus, that's going to be.
I think I think Amavi will play. Really, I think he will play because Rudy Garcia will need a left back on the left to cross. You know,
I think
Sarr.
Yeah, I think Sarr is the one who will be sacrificed, and Sakai will go back on the right wing to try and contain the likes of Di Maria or Draxler or whoever plays. Garcia will set up to contain. He will.
Exactly.
Yeah, because Sakai is better defensively.
That was my next question, whether you thought Amavi would come in for
Unfortunately,
Sakai.
yes.
Do you know if is Cavani back, or is he still out injured?
I think he will be back.
I think he's back in training, I think he's been back in training. I don't know if he will play tomorrow. I've not seen the squad. It's likely that he will play some part against us.
When he played a little bit in the Champions League defeat, so I think he'll be fit. But let's see what Dijon are going to do to him, because Dijon might chop half of them up and pop them into.
I've just looked it up. So PSG are going to Dijon without Cavani, Dani Alves, Draxler, or Paredes. So all four of them are missing.
I just hope Choupo-Moting doesn't score. It would be a shame.
Yeah, I think
embarrassing.
I'll hang myself if that happens.
If that happens, Amavi's got to get a goal. That's just the way it goes.
To be fair, he does hit some decent shots. Sometimes just none of them go in.
They're booing him a few weeks ago when he missed. He was playing absolutely awful.
Yeah, Amavi hasn't had a good few. Last year, really, he hasn't been very good. He did have one good game recently. I think it was against, was it Dijon? Was it? But that's the only game I remember him playing in the last.
It's hard to find a good game from him.
Yeah. So we're all predicting defeats for Marseille against Paris Saint-Germain next week. I think I'm going to say it, and nobody's going to want to hear it, I'm afraid, but I think we could end up getting beat 5-6-0 or 5-6-1 or something like that.
Well, that's Rudy Garcia. It's the way it is. I mean, we went to Monaco with a very weird tactical setup last season, got battered 6-1. That is what he is prone to do against the big teams. He either sets up to defend and we lose without even trying to do anything in the game, or he does some weird tactical juggling about and goes 5 at the back. And we just completely, all the players look lost on the pitch, and we could get battered, but who knows what he will do.
Yeah, I think it would be really good for once just to see us go for it at a game like that. Actually, just go for it and try and play our best football. And if we lose, but we play well and we try hard, then that would be better than watching us just go, expecting to be pulverised.
Can each of us go with a prediction of the Rudy Garcia competition?
Ooh, who wants to start with that one?
I'll go first. It's a tough one with Rudy. I did want him fired at the end of Christmas, near Christmas time. I wanted him sacked out the door. But if he somehow magically gets Champions League football, I will happily stay with him. But if, again, we crash out of European football early, like we did in the Europa League, then see you, Rudy. I'll see you at the job centre, mate.
I agree.
So I think, the question was, what do you think this predicted starting lineup will be?
Sorry, I thought
it's okay.
Mandanda, Sakai, Kaletika, Kamara, Mavi. Then I think Strootman and Lopez, and then wingers Turvan and Campos, and then up front German and Balotelli.
I agree. I think that is the likely.
You want mine?
Yeah,
I would say 3 people in the defense. Camara, Chaletazza, and Gustavo in the defense. Amavi on the left. On the left wing, Sakai on the right, midfield with Strootman and Lopez, and Payet number 10, Thauvin and Germain and Balotelli.
Yeah, I can see a lineup like that actually. I can believe that you could switch to a back 3. But actually the lineup that I've chosen is Mandanda, Sakai, Amavi, Gustavo and Kamara at the back, Strootman and Lopez in the middle, and then I'm a bit Definitely Ocampos and Tovan, and Balotelli up front. But I'm kind of undecided on whether I think he'll go with Germain up front with Balotelli in a 4-4-2, or whether he'll bring back Dimitri Payet and drop Germain and go for a 4-5-1 as such.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah,
we'll see.
It'd be nuts to.
So, I think with that one, we'll move on. Last week, we talked a little bit about the youth system, and I thought it'd be good to go into a little bit more detail about that this week. So, guys, have you got any thoughts? Or have you been following Marseille's youth team at the moment?
Well, the results, they're a bit complicated by the looks of things. I mean, we've got to keep in mind that we would effectively, the new management structure came in with Hérault and Zubizaita and Garcia, started from scratch. I think they sort of looked at the state of it, and they looked at the investments that were made, but also a big focus has been put on partnerships with local clubs. There were a lot of scandals a couple of years ago. I remember of local clubs like Herbel, who had a partnership with Montpellier, Nice, and had been, they consistently said they tried to get in contact with OM and had been turned away. So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is it always stems from the manager, and it's got to come from the manager. And you look at other teams around Europe, and especially around France, look at Lyon. Whenever they have a problem or they have a position where they need backup, they don't hesitate to blood a youngster. Someone like Aouar got his chance, and look at him now. He's one of the hottest prospects in Europe. For us, I was very surprised, and I still am a bit baffled that we're struggling at left back. There's a couple of prospects. I mean, Christopher Rocca has been in and around the professional team for the last 3 or 4 years. I think he played a couple of games under Bielsa and then subsequently disappeared again. And then we sent him out on loan to Sochaux in the last days of the recent mercato. The other one is Ali Mohamed, I think, is the other left back.
I think he is, but yeah.
Is he? Well, there is a bright left back prospect. So I remember reading about it a few weeks ago. And again, it's why doesn't I can understand Rudy is probably a bit cautious and doesn't want to risk it, etc., because he's desperate for results to keep his job. But it's quite frustrating. I don't think any OM fan would have a complaint if we blooded a couple of youngsters like we did with Lopez.
Yeah, but do the youngsters have the level to play as a professional? I'm not sure of that.
How do we know? How do we know? We don't know.
Yeah, how do we know? But you were talking about the left back. You can see in every club in France, or almost every club in France, they just have troubles to, how can I say it, to have a youngster from the academy to be left back or right back, because it's really, really rare to get this in France. So even Lyon use Ferland Mendy, and he's not from Lyon,
You say that, but France have got so many good left backs, probably a good selection of left backs as much as any country have got, so they do produce them.
And as you say, Florenzo, I mean,
not anymore.
As you say, Florenzo, you can produce them yourselves. It's possible. Bernard Mendy, etc. I mean, one of the best clubs for the left backs in the French squad has been Le Havre, and has always been one of the main.
Benjamin Mendy.
Yeah, sorry, Benjamin Mendy. Even Ferland Mendy, I think, is from Le Havre as well.
Yeah.
But Le Havre have always produced talents. I mean, we all remember the Cinema Pongol and the Le Talek, etc. 10, 15 years ago. Who joined Liverpool. Yeah, as well. So they've always had a solid academy, and that's where Lyon. Exactly. But when you look at Lyon and Monaco, that's where they seem to be a step ahead, and they seem to what we call in France post-formation. They seem to be able to attract these players when they're 20, 21, 22, and they've got like 50 professional games under their belt, and they say to them, hey, come and join us, 5 million, we'll give you your chance, and you'll play games week in, week out. And Marseille has never been a club that does that. Well, we have done it. There was the whole, Project Dortmund that Labrune tried to do, which paid off financially because we got some big money for some pretty average players such as Mboula.
I loved Mboula. I thought he had enormous potential. I think that's harsh. I think but
Bielsa made him look better than he was, and if he had stayed,
and Bielsa told it. He said Bielsa said at the end of the season, he said to Labrune, you can sell Imbula. He's not going to be better than
But
that.
it's surely not based on talent. It's about something to do with his mentality. Because he clearly had loads of talent and you seen him in that season. In some games he was just fantastic.
Yeah, you're right. But I think he can't go.
He's a bit like Zombo. He had the goal scoring
ability. Imbula was
way more talented than Zambo.
He was.
Technically, I mean.
He was, but we cashed in at the right moment. Perhaps, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, we exchanged Zambo Anguissa with Strootman. What a deal!
Yeah, but trouble is now look at Zambo Anguissa. He's doing terrible at Fulham.
Yeah, they call him the goat.
Yeah, he is a
going
goat.
back to what we were saying about the left back position, about Christopher Roquia, it's quite interesting because if I remember at the time when just before Christopher Roquia signed his first professional contract, there was a delay in him signing it, and there was rumours about a couple of other clubs. I think it was Lille and Monaco were trying to sign him, and I also remember Garcia since has been hesitant about putting him in the lineup, and there was times when Evra was out the picture, Amavi was injured, and he was asked about it.
He's not played a single game. He's not played a single game.
And the impression that I got was perhaps that he was being punished for the delay in signing his contract. I don't know if that's how you interpreted it, but I felt like there was something funny going on there, but why Garcia wouldn't give him a chance.
It's not at all a Bielsa Doria situation where he clearly didn't want him and didn't play him. Because, and let's face it, he was never up to scratch anyway. But it does beg the question. We've been struggling. Nobody would have criticised Roquia if he'd have been in the team for a run of 5 or 6 games and we'd have lost them and he'd made a couple of mistakes. I think Marseille fans are the first to recognise and get behind one of their own and say, look, he will improve, give him time. If he doesn't, well, at least we tried.
Yeah, but the pressure is high in Marseille. You can't, if you play well, maybe you play when you play bad 1 game, 2 games, 3 games, and then it becomes nightmare. Pressure is high in Marseille, and I don't think even Roquia would be, whistled.
Perhaps, but look at Lopez and Camara have come through, and they've done quite well. It's not impossible to be a young player and to play for Marseille, and
Yeah, but Lopez and Camara, they have the level to play in Marseille, And when Lopez came to the team, the first games I remember well, he did a fantastic job and he played really well, and we were all hyped. And same with Camara.
Yeah, he reminded me of when Lopez started playing. He reminded me of Flamini in terms of the impact he had and the approach of, hey, I'm lucky to be on the pitch. I'll just go for it. And then he sort of struggled. Yeah, he sort of struggled for a period after that in the first 6 months of this season, and now he seems to have found his feet again. Yes, he is more attacking, I agree, but he just seems to have the head for it, and the context seems to be right with his parents backing him, etc. And back to the general centre de formation, I think it was a comment that Hero made last week when there was the OM Nation dinner. We're 4 or 5 years away from producing 3 or 4 players a season that we can give a chance to. And yes, it's a work in progress. Yes, apparently Zubi is doing good work behind the scenes. I would appreciate if the club put a bit more light on that and publicise it a bit more.
I thought that they were publicising quite well all the new contracts they've been signing with local clubs to work in partnership with them and to get access to these young local players. Now, I thought they were making quite a good PR scene of all that.
On the partnership side, yes, but I mean on the actual squad itself that we have and the prospects that we have, it just seems like they're completely overlooked. And you see other teams like, not just PSG, but Lyon. For example, even the Lyon women's team gets a lot more publicity than some of our youngsters do, and it's because Lyon have a very good system.
Because the women team of Lyon wins everything, not the.
But they win
the
everything
team.
because
That's
they've invested in that, surely, and they take it seriously.
Yeah, but I don't think that's really important for Hero to. I mean the women team.
Well, I mean, it's disappointing because I think for a football club, they should be looking to improve at all levels, whether it's at the youth level, the women's team, the professional men's team. I think it all works towards the image of the club and the success of the club. I think it's really important.
Yeah, no, let's not be too harsh too early on the women's team. I mean, Manchester United have only just started theirs, for Christ's sake, and they're a top 5 European club, So let's wait and see.
I think really we need to put more focus on the women's team, because after all, this is the year that France hosts the Women's World Cup, and it's going to be a big time for women's football. So why not Marseille puts their women footballers on display? We're in the second tier. We need to be up at the top. Lyon are running away with everything. We need to be there.
I mean, look, to conclude on this, I mean, Amavi is so poor this season. Why not give her a chance? Our left back in the women's team at the point we're at.
I don't think he has
just going back to the left back situation. You talked about maybe not being sure if Rokia was up to the level, but a couple of points worth making about that is the Rokia played in the same team that Boubacar Kamara was playing in that got to the Coupe Gambardella final, and he was seen as one of the standout players. And also since he's gone to social, I mean, I'd seen on a couple of reading on an OM fan forum, like people were talking about his performance in the first couple of matches for social, and looking at social forums, and it looked like people were really impressed with him. I mean, I haven't seen the performances or how he's progressed since, but it from what I'd read, it seemed to indicate that there was something there. It's worth keeping an eye on.
Well, he's only played 4 games, which in itself isn't that bad. I mean, he probably arrived there with little rhythm. It's hard to say. I'm glad that he's getting game time, but at the same time, we had the opportunity to give him his chance earlier in the season when we were doing okay-ish in the first few games, and Garcia just didn't do it. And then there must be a reason for that.
Well, Garcia is not the right coach to improve the youngsters.
Right, you say that, and then you've got the Hazard complex where Hazard really improved under Garcia. But granted, they had a great team at Lille at the time. But
but that was long ago. That was long time ago. Now the Ligue 1 is really, really more difficult because of the PSG. You can't win like that. But when you see at Roma, you remember the only youngster that he bring in the team, it was Marquinhos, and he just sold every youngster of the team and just bought some old players like Gervinho and stuff.
Yeah, we'll touch on this probably towards the end when we do the questions, but yeah, that is worrying for the future.
Right. Okay. Just last couple of points about the youth team. I don't know if you've had a look at their performance, but I looked at them. They're in National 2, and they're actually last in their group, last in the league, which is really worrying that they're clearly not performing at that level either.
Well, here's a good idea, and look, it will never happen, but we don't have an OM identity of play. Lyon don't either, but they seem to have good staff and good setup that the youth players can walk into the first team, and they give them their chance because they know that they can make a couple of signings with big money like Depay and get by and finish in the top 3 or top 4 every season consistently. When you look at not just PSG this week in the Champions League, look at Ajax, look at the system there. And they have a setup where the kids from the age of 10 play the same formation as the professional team. They get given the same instructions on the pitch. It's such a consistent setup. It's the same with Barcelona when they produce Messi, Iniesta, Xavi. That generation, it starts from the bottom, but it starts from having someone who, like Zubi, who is overseeing all of it and says, right, OM is droit au but. The kids need to know it, and it needs to be taught to them, and we need to have the tactics that illustrate that for the 9-year-olds, for the 12-year-olds, for the 15-year-olds. It just doesn't seem to be there at this point.
Yeah, you're right, and I think you know, when you see Ajax and Barcelona, they have a style. When they play, they have a style. We don't have style, and the problem, we can't use the youngster to play in our team. When you see Monaco this year, look at the youngsters from Monaco. They are just like Marseille. They are struggling in the National 2 because they are using all the youngsters to stay in Ligue 1, and we can't do that because our youngster, they don't have the level.
Yeah, but Monaco's a special situation. I mean, you can't criticise Monaco's centre de formation when you look at Mbappé. I mean, they produced Mbappé.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying the opposite. I'm saying they are using the youngsters of Monaco to stay in Ligue 1. They are using the professional team.
True.
Yeah, I think. I think really we need to do what the Marseille board needs to. They need to put investing in players from other clubs aside and actually chuck money at the youth academy. Because, like you said, if Barcelona can produce talent like Messi and Iniesta and Xavi, look what we can do. Marseille's a football city. We can do this if we put our minds to it.
I think that's a good point. Now, just one last question, which is: do you think is there any young players that are coming through right now that you think is worth keeping an eye on that you've heard about?
Well, like I said, I think Riocha could be one, but I'm not too sure. If like you said, I've just checked the CFA table and they're bottom. Well, are they that talented, or is it because all the young players, the top ones, are in the first team? I really don't know. It's 50-50.
I think we have some youngsters that can come to the professional team. Lucas Perrin and Nkunku. Some of these players are really great. I think they will be in the team the next years.
Yeah, and Nkunku is good. Nouri Ahmed as well, the left back. He's the one I was thinking about earlier. Yeah. I think he was highlighted a few weeks ago because he had a game where he got a couple of assists. Chabrol is the only one. I think he's played a few games this season. I think he came on in a couple of cup games. It's always hard to say because it just seems so far away in terms of when anyone's going to be ready.
I think the best youngster in OM is Filippo.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah,
that one is really great.
Yeah, I've actually had a look at him as well. Just watching one of the matches online, and he looks quite technically quite solid, But whether or not he's there physically is another question.
And the big issue is he plays, unfortunately, at the position where we're already very heavy on players. We've got too many players in that position.
Okay, so I think we'll just move on now and have a look at the last week's news. There's not been any major stories, so I don't think we'll go into too much detail about anything. But a couple of things come to mind. So, firstly, I was thinking about last week we were talking about Rami in the US, and in the last week he's actually been linked with a move to the US, and he's actually come out and said that he doesn't want to leave and that he's quite happy to stay at Marseille regardless of what his role is, even if it is on the bench and it's a role in the dressing room. How do you feel about that?
Someone sighed pretty heavily. I think someone's got very clear feelings.
No, I don't think he should stick around. He's not doing a great job, is he, for the dressing room? Every time he plays, he screws. He should be giving himself the team talks, not everyone else.
Yeah, I agree. Well, if he stays and buckles up his ideas and actually starts working hard again, yes. And again, I think I mentioned this last week. If we start talking to him about, you do another season or two and then we can bring you into the staff and stuff like that, yes. On that basis, okay. Yeah, Mandanda probably the same. That's the way it should be headed with both of them. But if he expects to stay and faff about and just go clubbing and shag Pamela Anderson every couple of weeks, and no, we're done with handouts. We've had loads of centre backs. It always seems to be the centre back position where we end up with these Christian Valls and Abdenours and Julian Rodriguez who sit around, take the paycheck, and do fuck all. No, if it's that, no. But if he buckles up his ideas and works, yes, maybe.
Well, I still would give him a chance. I think he can bring something in the future. He he can be on the bench and be a joker.
Yeah, I'm with you, Fiorenzo. I've got a bit of a soft spot for him anyway. But yeah, so there was another story in the press in the last week I think it's worth talking about, which is Balotelli and his contract. So he's talked about it in the last few days, saying that he is really happy at Marseille and he's told his agent that he would be interested in staying longer. Do you think that Marseille should get him signed up quickly now, or do you think they should wait and see what happens?
We'll see, really, because if at the end of May we're in the Champions League, then absolutely chuck the kitchen sink at him. If we're in the Europa League, it may be, maybe not. It really depends where we finish at the end of the season.
I think more than a would we keep him? Yes, we'd all love to if his form carries on. Financially is going to be the big talking point. Yes, we're going to free up some money with Abdenour and other big salaries leaving. But if he has ridiculous demands, and he won't. His agent more than likely will, and again he will be a free agent, which means that potentially we have to fork out another big signing on bonus. Then it's going to be quite a difficult situation. Whatever happens, I want us to avoid the drama of fucking about for 3 or 4 weeks. Will he stay? Will he not? Should we look at someone else? Either make a decision, yes or no, straight away, make it happen, and then we can focus on strengthening other areas of the team.
Yeah, well, for me, I think he wants to stay. I think he says the truth, but he will depend on his agent. His agent. What's the name of his agent?
Yep.
Mino Raiola.
Pizza man, the fat pizza man.
I think he will ask for a lot of money. That's the problem. But yeah, I think he want to stay. And if we go to Champions League, he can stay. But if we go to Europa League, I don't think so. And the problem is, I don't think he's gonna get some best offer from other clubs. Bigger clubs than Marseille. I think he's gonna get offers from a club from Italia, but like
China more than likely.
But what if he has he's having a good second half of the season at Marseille? Could some other clubs could renew their interest in him? I wouldn't be surprised to see someone like Napoli or something go from.
Yeah, but look at last summer.
Ancelotti won't go for him. He's not Ancelotti compatible.
Look at the last summer. He had a really good season with Nice, and the only offers that he got was from average club from Italia.
Parma, yeah, who's just a promoted.
I think it's going to be the same thing this summer.
I think it's going to come down to as well, if he plays his way, which seems to be happening. Mancini came to watch him last night. If he plays his way back into the Italy squad and he's on a good vibe, he's got a good feeling, he will want to stay with assurances from Mancini that keep scoring, keep playing well. I'll select you for the national team if you keep your head right. If that doesn't happen and he doesn't play his way back into the Italy squad, and who knows what Mancini's whispering to him, maybe he says to him, go back into Italy and then I'll consider you again. That could play if he is keen on being an international.
Yeah, but the problem is in Italia, everybody in Italia knows him. Everybody knows how he is. Sorry. So the thing is, he's not going to get big offer from bigger club than Marseille.
I hope you're right. And my worry is, like you said, is that I think he might even ask for, or his agent will ask for even more money than he already signed on, which was quite an enormous amount. I think his salary was said to be, in the 6 month salary was said to be more than David Beckham's when he came to Paris Saint-Germain. So.
It's going to depend. I mean, if he asks for money, we have to ask for commitment, and I'm not interested in signing him for another season, just for 1 year. I mean, that doesn't show continuity on our part, and it would be a complete contradiction to Ero's stance, which has been stability and continuity. If he's open to staying, even a 2 or 3 year contract, I'd be happy with, because that gives us some flexibility in terms of sitting down with him next summer and selling him if he's not good, or keeping him on if he is good, and everybody's happy. But if he signs just for another season, we're ridiculing ourselves.
Well, yeah, but I think there are good attackers in Ligue 1, and if you know the guy from Strasbourg, what's his name?
Kenny
Oh,
Lala?
the striker.
No. I mean,
Sorry.
A
forward.
York.
Yeah, Ajorc. Yes, Ajorc is a really good player.
Yeah, he scored against Lyon on the weekend. Yes.
Yeah, I would be really, really glad if he would sign at Marseille.
Yeah, it's unlikely we're going to get any of the Nicolas Pepe or the Ismail Assar. I think they're Premier League bound.
Yeah, I mean, I could see Sarr if Tovan goes. Like, I could believe that he's the kind of player we might be up for spending a bit of cash on, but maybe Sam Maximin's more realistic in that respect. But so I think one other news story just worth a mention quickly. I read, I don't know if you read during the week, but Samuel Nasri apparently said that Patrice Evra had told him about West Ham and that the training the training regime of West Ham was far superior to Marseille. Does that come as a shock to you?
Well, he'd do anything to badmouth Marseille. Simple, really.
He's defended us this week. I found his little tip for tap with Jérôme Roten has been quite entertaining. I mean, well, he's gone a bit far with certain comments. I mean, I think it's a bit out of line calling someone a result of a pierced condom. That is a bit harsh. But Evra is crazy. Look, let's face it. The guy's off his rocker. He'll say anything to stay relevant on social media. He's gone. Let's move on from Evra. It doesn't surprise me. Look, Pellegrini is a manager I wouldn't mind at Marseille. I think he'd be a good manager for us. But the Premier League has always been very, very demanding and very strict in training regimes. They don't let you piss about in training.
Well, ever since Wenger came in, the regime has changed. I mean, that's the story.
Yeah, as you say, the diets, everything.
There's that great story of Wenger taking away the Mars bars and then shouting back, "We want our Mars bars back." One West Ham player who I'd like in Marseille side, Felipe Anderson. Oh, he's brilliant.
Yeah, he's out of our budget, but yeah, he is. Yeah. He's a good player.
I like Manuel Lanzini too.
I don't think West Ham are up for selling us any more players, guys.
No, I don't think so.
That bridge is burnt. Yeah, that bridge is burnt. The fans will start travelling to Marseille on holiday and smashing the pubs in.
Oh, I got a lot of abuse from West Ham fans. They called me a big nosed cunt halfway through the process.
Well, it's nothing to do with us. We didn't pay the money. Jesus, we weren't the one harassing Payet. His wife was.
Okay, I think we'll move on now. And just before we finish, said that we would go through some of the questions that some of the listeners sent in. So I think we've got time for a couple. The first one is from Mike, which came via email, and the question he asked was, when Tovan returned, reports said he wanted to become the Francesco Totti of Marseille. Of the current squad, do you see any of the players becoming long-term players at Marseille?
If Tovan stays, if we get Champions League, yes. Anyone else? No.
I think Payet is our sort of Totti. He left, he came back. He's been here 7 years overall, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
He's as close as we're going to get to having someone who's that committed and someone who has no other options, really.
Yeah, I think Payet is more attached to Marseille than Thauvin. Thauvin said that when he was 21 years old, but now he wants to leave.
Well, I don't know if he wants to, but he certainly will think about it if we don't get top three.
You can't blame him. Yeah. He's playing well. He's thinking.
His stats are very good.
Yeah, that's why I always say, don't say shit like that. Like Camara just said a few days ago, he said something like, I would play on my whole career in Marseille. You can't say that when you are young because you don't know what's coming.
Samuel Nasri said similar stuff, if I remember, many years ago, and he never stayed very long. So.
I think the player I would have liked to have kept is Flamini, really. I think he could have been a very solid base for our midfield, especially if you look at the players we signed not too long afterwards, like Sana, Giroud. I mean, Flamini could have been that spirit and that grinta, that incarnation of La Grinta.
The problem is Flamini is... I won't say the word, but I hate him. What he done to Marseille.
It was a very different context back then, and the context of the club has changed, but I just don't see a future as it is now with no identity and no gameplay, no game plan.
Look at Nasri. Nasri, when he had an offer from Arsenal, he was a free agent, and he just signed a 1-year contract at Marseille.
Yeah, so we could sell him for money.
Yeah. And Flamini didn't.
Yeah, but Flamini fell out with Anigo, and it's Benassia as well around the same time. I mean, I just think there were some very dodgy dealings going on in Marseille. They probably still are.
Benassia is different. When he was at the club, it was Anigo. If you remember him, he didn't use Benassia. Benassia had the level, and
we had a defensive issue at that time as well, and he kept overlooking him. That's quite right. Actually, I think the days of kind of one club, one player, one club, the Maldinis, the Tottis, is kind of hard. It doesn't really happen much anymore, and I mean I think it's unlikely at any football club now to expect that. But I think if I was to pick one player where I could probably see him stay a long time, is Lopez. Actually, seems to be quite quiet, just gets on with it. Seems to be happy where he is for now, but that may change quickly.
No, it's possible, but if he improves and keeps up performing consistently, if realistically Barcelona or Sevilla or a club like that come in for him, it's going to be difficult for us to keep hold of him if we're not qualifying consistently for the Champions League, like it is going to be difficult to keep hold of any player. And on the flip side, we've mentioned Payet. Mandanda is another one who's, he's been a loyal servant to the club. He's now the record holder in terms of appearances. But we're now at the stage of, yes, thank you, your good years are gone. And Totti, when he was 35, 36, he was still scoring goals for Roma, and he was still carrying the team and playing that sort of link with the fans and link with the culture of the city and the identity. He was still useful to the team. And in the current state of things, Payet and Mandanda are both bloody hospital passers,
Well, my view is that we need to keep Mandanda legacy alive, because like Totti's moving to the administration part of Roma. I think Mandanda needs a coaching role at Marseille, maybe teaching the kids how to be the stopper that he became.
Yeah, I think he won't. I think he will sign another club, a Ligue 1 club. He will sign at
I think he'll come back. Yeah, I think he will come back then. But we need, as a club and as a board, they need to take the initiative of getting former players back in and tying them to coaching roles and tying them to identities. And it pisses me off when I see Lyon have Florian Maurice, and Florian Maurice has always said, Marseille is where I enjoyed myself the most and where I felt the most love from the fans. But now he's back at Lyon, and he's actually done a decent job, because he's in charge of recruiting some of their youth players, and he gets involved with some of the bigger transfer dealings as well. And you look at that, and I just think it's a waste that we're not capable of saying to these people, hey, we've got to...
Well, we have had that in the past. We've had, Durand had a similar role, didn't he, in scouting and recruiting players, and he was a former Marseille player.
Yeah, but he's bloody useless, and Anigo is bloody useless, and Skubla,
that's why...
Club legend, and we didn't sign a single player he recommended. He recommended Modric at the time. He recommended several players.
Rakitic, Modric, yes. But remember Dimeco. Dimeco was at the club, and he got fed up, didn't he? But he got fed up as well of all of the mafia and all of the bullshit that has surrounded the Anigo period.
Right. I was just. I think we'll move on to the next question. So we've got another question that was sent in on Twitter from Munir. He says, do you think a top 3 finish is in our own hands? Is it the case that we need Lyon to drop points, or is it up to us to keep winning and to reach third place?
It's both, really. And what worries me is Lyon, their game against Montpellier next Saturday has already been moved. Then there's the international break. Look, it's difficult context in France socially, because there's all these protests, etc. But it is going to give them a bit of an unfair advantage if they end up having 1 or 2 games in hand when they come to the Velodrome, and they can play without pressure, knowing that they've got a couple of jokers that they can always pick up points on. If we are in the similar position and we have games in hand and we can catch some points as well, okay. but it is always a bit dodgy and a bit unfair when a team has game in hands on the other team in the top 3 or top 4 race.
Okay. Ed, you got any thoughts on that?
No, it isn't in our own hands. We've got to hope. We're still 3 points behind Lyon. We've got to hope they drop games. They've still got to play in the Champions League, but I think they've still got to play. Have they got to play a cup tie this week?
No, they're playing Barcelona on Wednesday.
They're not going to be in the
Okay,
Champions
right.
League for very much longer. I doubt it, though.
Don't curse it, Steph. We know what. I think really we've just got to let's hopefully get something out of this PSG game. Hopefully Lyon may drop points because they've not been playing too great at the moment. I mean, they drew with Strasbourg at the weekend. So it's not really in our own hands. I think we've got to beat Lyon on game 36 and then hope.
Fiorenzo, what do you think? Do you think the push for third place is in Marseille's hands?
Yeah, I think so. I think we have to beat Lyon. If we beat Lyon, we can go on the third place.
And win in Bordeaux
year,
as well. We have to win in Bordeaux as well.
Yeah, we have to. Yeah, like every time we got to win Bordeaux, but we never. But the thing, remember last year we could go to Champions League and we lost at Velodrome against Lyon. So we have to win this time, and that's going to be the difference.
Okay, so last question for tonight. It was sent in by Ryan. It says, and you've kind of answered this already, I think, but it says, is Garcia the man to lead OM Champions project?
Absolutely. No, sorry.
No. No chance.
Hold on, Ben. I think if he gets Champions League football, give him another 3-4 months, and then if he screws up, push him out the door.
Yeah, it'll cost us too much by then. And the problem is, if it's to go in, his record in the Champions League is fucking abysmal. He's been battered at home at Roma by Barcelona 7-0 or 7-1. I'm just not interested in going in the Champions League and looking stupid.
But who do you want, mate? I mean, who do you want to replace him? Let's have a look at some names. Do you want Walter Mazzari or something?
Well, look, it's a difficult one. We never know who Errol is going to go for. I mentioned Pellegrini
you could have gone for Jardim earlier on in the season, and he chose to stick.
Yeah, we missed out.
Yeah,
on
we
Jardim.
screwed that up.
Yeah, we missed out on that. The timing would have been perfect as well because Rudy was shitting himself. Pellegrini maybe is an option if he knows enough. Yeah,
Pellegrini. Are you crazy, Ben? He's a dinosaur. He's about 107 years old, man. What are you playing?
He's won things, and there aren't options out there, many available options to us of people who have won things.
He's
and
getting
who
the
have
big
that,
money in
that
England.
culture.
He's not going to come. I just can't see it.
Zidane's
that's the one I was hoping for. And I know how unrealistic it sounds, but I just hope that maybe just because of the emotional attachment that it could happen, but that's off the cards now.
I think we're likely to get a big name if we go French. There's only two options for me. There's Julien Stéphane at Rennes, who smacked Arsenal the other night and sets up his team to play attacking football. We were talking about it with the guys in the bar last night. Dalloglio is another one who has had very little means, a very little transfer budget, but his team plays attacking football.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I don't agree with Dalloglio. I don't think he's a good manager, but I really, really agree with Julien Stéphane. He's a really, really good manager. He's a young one. I think he can be the next one in Marseille.
He's the brother of Guy Stéphane, who knows the club inside out.
The only thing is that he's just started at Rennes, and you can't really imagine him leave for another year.
No, I don't think he's gonna leave this summer. Maybe in 2 years. But for Garcia, just to go on this thing, for Garcia, I think he was perfect for the beginning of the project. When we got bought by McCourt, but now I think he's done. I think if we go to Champions League, we're gonna get wrecked. Remember against Bayern Munich, he lost 6-0, I guess. Against Barcelona, he lost 7-1, something like that. If we go to Champions League, it's going to be a really big shame.
I think you're quite right. I think we're only expecting an embarrassment if he continues when we get to the Champions League. We just don't.
And if he doesn't, if he doesn't get Champions League, then it's just more of the same next season.
Can I suggest, if we do want a replacement, I think there's only one suggestion, and I'm going to hate myself for saying this: Laurent Blanc.
No way.
I'm leaving right now.
Well, you know what though? Like, I mean, I'm not a fan of Laurent Blanc. I think he's exactly the same stuff as Rudy Garcia. But I think if Garcia goes, Laurent Blanc will be the most likely person that Elo brings in.
He'll probably, because he's free.
Yeah,
because
He's a
free
traitor.
and is available.
And remember what
no.
he's done to JJJ.
Yeah. He screwed him
And
over.
you have to know something about Laurent Blanc. 50% of the job was made by
Gasset.
Yes, by Gasset. Yes. So
he's
if we
managing
take only,
Saint-Etienne.
yeah, and he's not really well with the
I understand
But,
he wasn't very popular with players either. I'd heard. I don't know if you've heard that before, but his personality, I think, is caused problems before in the dressing room.
The only thing I have to say is you don't have to like the manager, you don't have to like the players that you're working with to get results. You've just got to get on with it. Okay, then if we can't have Blanc, how about we chuck the kitchen sink at Mourinho?
No, it's never gonna happen.
Nah, no way.
I wouldn't want him anyway.
I know.
It's difficult. I'm 100% clear in my mind. Top 3 or top 4. I want Garcia gone. I just can't. We will not progress and we will not improve with him.
Yeah,
I'm very worried that if we do get top 3 and he gets 60 million to spend, he's going to fuck it up and sign more players like Strootman that he's worked with before, Gervinho, God knows who he's going to waste the money on. And then we're going to be stuck with 30-year-olds and we're screwed for 3 or 4 years.
I agree. And to end just about Laurent Blanc, just the last thing, he's really, really arrogant. You know, when we see the interviews of Rudy Garcia, we can see he's arrogant. It's never his fault if we lose, and Laurent Blanc is the same.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think that's about enough for tonight. I think we'll wrap it up. I just want to say thank you all for taking part. That was really good.
No problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to all the listeners as well, guys. I mean, quite a few of you have listened, quite a few of you have commented and given feedback. We really appreciate it. We're doing this for you guys, for the English speakers. Any suggestions, any questions, get in touch.
Yeah, thanks very much, everyone, and we'll try and get out to you next week, hopefully. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Cheers, lads.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.